My name is Grace Gatera. I am Rwandan. I live in Kigali, and I love mental health. I'm a I advocate for mental health from the perspective of lived experience, which is someone who has experience of mental health challenges, who's been through the whole gamut, and is now like, I want better for my people. I want better for everyone who's been through what I've been through, and so that's how I would talk about myself. Yeah.
When introducing mental health. I think that's so interesting that as an African, firstly, you identify with the conversation around mental health. I was speaking to young reporters on Friday last week, and a lot of them said before we started to cover it, it was just a foreign concept to them. So I'm
Yeah.
really, as someone who's older, I'm really happy to hear that you know firstly what mental health is and you're so passionate about it. But
Thank
I want to know that, like, I found an article on you as I was doing a bit
you.
of homework to prepare for this interview, and it mentioned how you've moved around essentially Africa, same region, but you were born in Burundi, moved to Rwanda, and later Uganda. And I think I just want to know, how would you say the conversation in these areas is different around mental health?
Oh, that's a good question. I probably will not be able to tell you about Burundi because I was only there for like 3 months, and as a baby, I did not have conversations about mental health. um, but I will say though that I think the entire region is it's awakening to what mental health means.
Mhm.
Not only in general, because Rwanda has had it has had the time to think about mental health because of the recent tragedy, the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, and but with the with the lockdown and COVID-19 and having enough time to like sort of sit down and think about ourselves, I think more and more people have realized just how important mental health is. And it's a trending conversation, not only for, our young adults, but also for young people themselves. They're really, really curious about what they can do, how we can, how we can sustain our mental health, our mental well-being in spaces where we may not have a lot of, um, official support or a lot of medical support because, of course, our countries have to prioritize what is important because we still do not have enough budget for that. So, so people are taking it upon themselves to think about, ways in which they can foster their mental health, whether it be exercise, whether it be, arts, music, dancing, all of those things. And I think we share that across Africa, just thinking about creative ways we can take care of ourselves.
You mentioned how the history of Rwanda's kind of pushed, the country to look at mental health. How would you
Mhm.
say that's looking, as someone who's never been to Rwanda? What is the state or country as a whole doing to actually put mental health on the table and not treat it like it's some foreign thing that only happens to like
Mhm.
Europeans and Americans?
I will say it's good that I will say that the conversation, whatever conversation has to happen, right, um, has to start from the top down. Of course,
Mm.
people still think of it as a very foreign concept. People will be like, I have to eat, I have to feed my kids, I have school fees issues. I don't have time to think about mental health. But the government itself is prioritizing mental health. In fact, during the COVID lockdown, when governments were, releasing standard operating procedures for how to care for a COVID patient before, before medical people would come and pick them up.
Mm-hmm.
Rwanda was, I think, the only country in East Africa that, from the very beginning, had SOPs for mental well-being. So, what to do when someone is experiencing, a panic attack, or depression because of COVID and lockdown, and how to care for them, anxiety first aid, panic attack first aid. All of those had a handbook, and it was there from the beginning. So I think if governments invest, even when it's not, the budget, but if they invest in talking about mental health, in decolonizing it, destigmatizing it, I think people will take up the cause.
I find it so interesting that you're bringing that up because, in South Africa, um, I mean, I think people, just like the basics of mental health, it's like a word many people heard but never really understood or knew about. But post lockdown, COVID, it's like it just kind of roared. The conversation around mental health has been so loud. And I think
Yeah.
it's because so many people had to sit down with themselves during that time. And so now it's like, okay, wait, actually, depression is a real thing, and so is anxiety. So I do love that you emphasize around decolonizing it, because I do think that on the continent as a whole, people do look at mental health like, it can't be that deep. You know what I mean? Like, those are white
Right.
people. That's not our issue. Our issue is feeding the kids and taking them to school.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. So I absolutely understand what you mean by that. I want to get into your work though, because I mean, I know you advocate for mental health, and it's a subject that you're really passionate about. But what exactly are you doing right now with regards to connecting yourself and your passions to the work?
Good question. You have excellent questions, Marianne. Um, so I started off. I cannot talk about this without giving like the whole story. I hope you don't mind. Um, so I lived in Uganda for close to 25 years as a refugee, and then I came back to Rwanda in 2018. And the reason why I came back was because I had gone through like a really big crisis, mental health crisis in Uganda. I attempted suicide twice. And so when I failed the second time, I was like, okay, listen, this business is not working for me. I need to reshift my priorities. I need to think about what to do now that, it's become clear that I need to leave, right? And so I moved to Rwanda, fresh start, and I started working on radio actually. I was yeah, I did the graveyard shift, just maintaining things, and while there, I started talking, locally about my experiences to my parents, to my friends, things like that. And my parents were like, "Okay, so what would be a good way to give back to community? What would be a good way to bring together, survivors and things like that?" And so we started working locally, having like support groups, and then that attracted the attention of the Lancet Commission on gender-based, no, the Lancet Commission on mental health, on global mental health and sustainable development. And then from there, my work sort of, blossomed. And so locally, I work with a small organization called Yego Rwanda. But internationally, I've worked with a couple of organizations, chief of which is the Wellcome Trust, which is, I think, the world's largest mental health funder. I think I work in lived experience, which is trying to embed the lived experience voice. People like me, survivors like me, having them be at the center of the conversation around mental health research, around mental health advocacy, making sure that we are represented, and that I am creating space for a lot more to come in, because I don't want to be alone. I'm not alone at the moment. There are brilliant other advocates working across the world, but there's space for more, and there's space for more Black women as well, Black African women. So that's my main goal at the moment.
That's amazing, Grace. And I love how you spoke about like the importance of keep involving rather the people with lived experiences. It's almost like every time when they have conversations around young people, I constantly feel like, but where are the young people to actually speak about themselves? And I think it needs to be the exact same thing when it comes to mental health, mostly because when someone shares their story, it's easier to sit and resonate with them instead of someone telling you about like statistics or that this happened. It's like when you're
100%.
there connecting with the person, you actually, like you said, you don't want to be alone in terms of working on this. But even when hearing
Yeah.
or dealing with their like personal issues, most people don't want to be alone. So I do think that's absolutely incredible. I do want to know, what would you say is like one of what's like what if you can think of one moment in your career working around mental health, what would you say was like a highlight where you looked and you were like, I'm actually in the space I need to be in, like this is the right work for me?
That's again, Marianne. your questions are beyond. I'd say actually it was the local aspect of
Mm-hmm.
It was the local aspect of the work. We started off just me, my parents, and like 4 or 5 other volunteers who just shared stories across like a campfire. And then they went home and told them about what we were doing, and then they brought in other people. And so from in 1 year we were working with, so in 1 year we worked with 25 people, and in the next year we had 85 people, and in the next year we had 125 people. And it was just a very simple concept. Like you said, we don't want to be alone. Africa is, we love our village, we love the, we love our village, we love our community, we love to share, we love to sing together, to dance together. And so by incorporating just those concepts, just a space where we can speak and be free and love and live and just share stories that we've never shared with anyone else, I think it blew my mind. It was like, we don't have to have like big money, we just have to have the love and for community. Yeah,
And
so
I do think
that's my biggest highlight.
as Africans, community really is the core of our being. Like when you mentioned that we love our villages, I can't imagine a village where the people don't know each other or don't try to help each other. So I can see why that's such an important aspect of, why it would make you so happy. I personally love being on the ground when I'm interacting and talking to the people. That's when I feel like, yes, this is the space for me. I need to connect. So I'm really happy that you've gotten to experience that, and I'm even happier that you were able to start those type of initiatives. I do want to rewind to the radio part of things, though, and how you working in that space is what made your parents say, "How do we give this to the community?" Was there ever a time when you were working on radio where people actually did start opening up and sharing their stories with you on air? And how else did that platform work for you in terms of growing your work around mental health?
Good question. I was working more in the background of things, so not exactly on radio, but as part of the maintenance crew. So that didn't happen. But my parents actually, and this is another thing that Africa is big on. Both my parents are religious ministers, and they get a lot of people every day coming in and saying, "Hey, can I tell you? Can you pray for me on this?" And this is what I used to bring together. We used together to bring together community, because it was just an extension of their work basically. And this is why radio is just a platform, but what people need is someone who is visible, who's saying, I am here and I'm here to listen, I'm here to to support, to so using what you have basically. And I think given that radio is one of the biggest ways people get together and listen. In Rwanda, at least, it's really big. Rwanda's biggest media platform is still radio,
Wow.
because everyone has it. So I think it's such an incredible tool and can be used to bring people together and just share. And a lot of radio presenters that I know are using it as a way to share stories, as a way to sort of support people.
Okay, that's amazing. I do think radio's magic is the fact that it reaches so many people so effortlessly, and how people actually still care to listen to what's being said. I also just want to know that when we look at the continent of Africa, I know you're based in like the core of your work is around Rwanda and, having been in Uganda, but just kind of looking at the overall discussion of mental health in Africa, what do you think as Africans we need to be focusing on to make it easier to speak about the subject and actually work on, making people feel like I can get help, I'm not alone?
Mm. I think what we need to, so I as an advocate, I've had a lot of time to think about this, and I've been thinking
Mm,
about the different ways that it's worked in some areas and the different ways it hasn't. To be
okay.
honest, even though we're a wide and united continent, we still have contextual challenges, right? So what works in one country will not work in another country based on where they are, right? But the biggest thing that I've seen is to be unconventional, because we are not conventional people. So a lot of people will be like, yeah, no, bring together people, put them in a workshop, tell them about this and send them out. No, we need to use the resources that are already available. And I think that the biggest of them is our sense of community. The different ways that we use the different, our birthright. So our birthright is like, as Africans, our birthright is movement, it's music, it's creativity. I think tapping into those to have this conversation is very, could be more useful ways that are alien to our people. And thirdly, to use the people that are already having influence in these spaces. And that means also like partnering with unconventional institutions, like, religious institutions. I'm not big on religion, but I think that they have an oversized influence, especially in rural areas. And I think that, that's a way. Like if you have a pastor who is in charge of 7,000 people in a village somewhere in Burundi, why don't you tell him to mention that it's okay to seek clinical support, right? Why it's okay to say, I'm having a bad day. It's okay to say, what I have is this medical condition. It's not demon possession, just utilizing what's already on ground. And then I think the other biggest thing is to just work with government institutions and lobby upward as opposed to lobbying. It's not enough to tell people you're going to be okay, but making it a national agenda and allocating some money for it could go a long way in supporting the community as well.
I actually think that's so powerful what you've said, especially looking around, like if you've got a pastor, I think, or on the continent as a whole, like religion is such a big deal, and people are more likely to listen to their, the priest or the pastor over like their doctor or even a friend or family member. And I love the example you gave that, like, instead of telling someone that they're possessed and it's demons, actually say, have you actually seen a doctor? Sounds like depression to me, or whatever. I actually, like, in my head that felt like such a light bulb moment, because it's like that would have such an incredible impact. And I do think as a continent it's something we need to be looking into a whole lot more. You spoke on storytelling, which is something I'm absolutely obsessed with, hence working in radio. And you also spoke about how you work for the Wellcome. You said it was a Wellcome Foundation, right?
The Wellcome Trust, yeah.
I'm so sorry. I saw that the Wellcome Trust is working on a bit of a film. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah. So the Wellcome Trust is working on a crowdsourced documentary called "I Hope This Helps," and it's part of Mindscapes, which is Wellcome's international. Yeah. Can you hear me? Oh no.
Yes, there was just a delay on my side. No, I'm here.
There's a delay on mine as well.
But you were answering. I could hear you clearly.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, 100%.
Okay, fantastic. Sorry, I'll repeat that. So the Wellcome Trust is, working on a big crowdsourced documentary called "I Hope This Helps," and it's part of Mindscapes, which is a Wellcome international cultural program exploring the topic of mental health through the work of artists and creative practitioners. Across the world. So I hope this helps is us wanting to hear directly from everyone in the world about what works to support their mental health. And it's not limited to, to anyone.
Grace?
It's not limited. Yes. Sorry.
I got kicked out, actually. Like, my internet decided to disappear me. So I just reconnected. Could you answer that question from the beginning again?
Yes. I will say short sentences. I'm gonna say short sentences so that you can confirm. Right. Okay. Shall we go again?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. So I hope this helps. It's a crowdsourced documentary, um, which is part of Mindscapes, a Wellcome International Cultural Program, which is exploring the topic of mental health through the work of artists and creative practitioners across the world. How does that sound for you?
Yes, yes, yes. I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this, I hope this helps, is us wanting to hear directly from everyone who can, everyone who is able to, who has access to a camera, of video access, and yeah, so it's a program, it's a documentary or a film where we want to hear what works for everyone and supports their mental health, to support their mental health. So anything that works, if it's dancing, if it's music, if it's showering in the forest, uh, forest, wind, rain, anything. Yeah, so that's the film that we're working on at the moment, and it's already beautiful. I can tell you, Marianne.
And let's say I, Mary Ann, really want to be part of this because I've also got a story to share. How would I do that?
I think so. If Marianne, you want to share, because I want you to share. I want to know what works for you, Marianne. Please go to ihopethishelps.com. Um, it's a website, and it's very simple. You can submit your videos. There's a link on the website itself to submit your videos. But if that doesn't work, there's also a WhatsApp number which you can share the video itself. And yeah, give us anything, whatever size, whatever capacity, whatever quality. We're very willing to take anything to hear from you. What's important is you just share what you are, what works for you, and then at the end just say, I hope this helps, or during the middle, or anything. Just, the thing is, it's supposed to be centering you, centering the person who's filming, and centering their experiences and centering their world. We've got already some footage where people are doing it as a sort of a vlog of their day. So get ready with me to go to work, or this is my day, and filming from the beginning to the end. It's really beautiful, and actually really poignant, because you get to see that we're united by our humanity, united by wanting to feel better, wanting to be good, wanting to contribute to the world. It's really beautiful, and I hope we get more submissions, because I'm enjoying watching through the ones that we've gotten.
That sounds so amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that, Grace. And I'm actually going to I'm going to be with a bunch of young people next week. And if I can, I want to say, guys, today, this is what we're doing, because I think I can imagine it looking so amazing, and getting so many different people to be part of it, like normal people like you and I. So thank you so much for sharing that. Before we wrap up our conversation, I'd like to know if there's anything you would like to share with regards to mental health that you feel like I didn't ask you about.
Mm. So I will say that thank you so much, Marianne, for asking me really deep, amazing questions. I enjoyed speaking to you, and I will say that there is no the while at the moment it's hard for Africans to get official platforms, being involved in mental health research because of a variety of different reasons. There is no limit on where you can be a mental health for your community. And please reach out if you need any support. Please reach out if you need a way to start. I'm very happy and willing to support you. And yeah, please don't contribute to I hope this helps. We're very keen to get your submissions.
Thank you so much, Grace. And just to say that I really think you have such an amazing smile. Like, for me to be so happy and comfortable speaking right now, it's because of your picture that you have up. So thank you so much for having a picture up. And I really like your smile. And thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
this conversation overall. It's been so enlightening, especially because I've never really
Thanks.
had a conversation on mental health with someone else on the continent. And so just to
Mm,
see how the rest of my people doing and working around mental health is so heartwarming for me. So thank you. Please keep doing what you do. We need it, and hopefully we can just keep pushing it throughout the continent.
Thank you. That was very kind of you to say.
Okay, thank you, Grace. I'll be in touch via email in terms of what we're going to do with like audio and all of that. But yeah, love talking to you.
Love talking to you as well. Let me know if you need anything else. I'm very happy to support.
Thank you so much.